Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Hey, good morning, folks.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat.
Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are.
There it is, team. Morning. Morning, wherever you're tuning in from today.
Early bird gets the worm, they say. Here at Positive, we offer a 6-star team. It's a team that help you at every stage of your wealth creation journey.
Morning team, Andy Fenton coming to you this morning on this amazing Thursday morning. The weather's turned down here in Mornington, in the Mornington Peninsula, down here in Victoria. So we have had an absolute blissful run of weather down here. It's slowly turned, so hence I'm in here, nice and warm, about to have a Wealth Coffee Chat with you. So team, get ready. Just going to play our little disclaimer, and then we're going to chat about 3 years and 3 taxes that we should be looking at, and the new taxes may be on the cards, maybe not, but it's better to be aware of what may be coming so that you can help navigate that, or at least understand that, and maybe even Monday get a chance to change that. So we'll be right back after this.
General advice disclaimer. The information provided is general in nature and does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or needs. Before acting on any information, you should consider whether it is appropriate for your circumstances and seek professional advice from a licensed financial advisor. While every effort has been made to ensure the accuracy of the information, it is not guaranteed. It is based on our understanding of regulations and laws as at the publication date. As these are subject to change, you should talk to a professional advisor for the most up-to-date information. Any examples or illustrations provided are for illustrative purposes only and are not a guarantee of future performance. We do not accept any liability for any loss or damage incurred by reliance on the information provided. Any opinions expressed are subject to change without notice. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and all investments carry risks. Neither the hosts, guests, nor any affiliated entities accept liability for any loss or damage arising from reliance on the information provided. By listening to this podcast and viewing this presentation, you acknowledge and agree to these terms.
Good morning, team. Hey, listen, a disclaimer never sounded so good. Well done, Nada. That was cracker. That's the first time I've heard it, and I think you should probably use it more often. It makes it sound almost like a warm hug when we're talking about liability. So, team, let us know where you're dialing in from today, or where you're tuning in from today. Dialing in, gosh, old habits change, or don't change, rather. Good to figure out who we're chatting to this morning. Jeff, good to see you, legend, as well. Hope all is well in your neck of the woods, and hope that investing went well too, mate. I haven't checked in to see how that all transpired, but hopefully very fruitful for you. We've got Kevin, mate, in from Florida. Happy days, Kev. Nice to see you on board through YouTube. Hopefully you enjoy the chat today. Hey, a lot going on in your neck of the woods too. Maybe we should do a bit of a Wealth Coffee chat about the States. So much happening at the moment. It's super, super interesting. We're going to talk about taxes. We're going to talk about taxes in Australia, or we're going to talk about taxes that don't exist yet, that might exist. And yeah, maybe a bit of a rant coming. Well, we'll see. Jeff, we'll see. Because ultimately, new government, for those of you who've been living under a rock, there's a new government here in Australia, or it's not a new government, it's the same government, but it's new by the way that it's got a fair bit of control now. So it's likely that there's a lot more of their wants, desires, and legislative powers or legislative perspectives that have a greater chance of actually coming to fruition. So I thought this morning we'd take a look at it and see, what are the ones that they have been trying to navigate their way around, trying to avoid the questions. What are some of the things that have been on the cards as well when it comes to previous elections? So let's have a little bit of a chat about that, and let you guys know what's coming, or what's potentially coming, what to keep your eye out for, and what to start heckling them for if they actually bring it in. So we call it in a different program, Vows, the 3 T's, which are the 3 taxes. And we talk about it in the exit plan, the Freedom Machine. We talk about it from the perspective of a bank account that's to house the taxes that you pay on behalf of business and behalf of your team and behalf of yourself. So those taxes are GST, payroll tax. Oh, don't even get me started on payroll tax. What else have we got? We've got PAYG, PAYI installments. We've got payroll tax. We've got all of these various different taxes that we need to pay: company tax, GST, and super. That's a tax really on business as well. So I've got all these taxes, and we call it the 3 T's account. But for the purposes of today, I don't want any of the exit planners or Freedom Machine listeners to get confused. We're talking about 3 T's as in 3 potential new taxes that have been talked about quite a lot, both in the press and in Parliament. And let's have a little bit of a chat about what might be introduced over the next 2 to 3 years while our new government has significant legislative power in there. So what are they, team? We'll go through them one by one. First one is one that really there was a debate, and it was washed over during that debate, but our current Prime Minister refused to ignore it, and also the current Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, refused to ignore or refused to really comment on it. But principal place of residence. Currently, it's one of the wonderful, beautiful tax havens for Australians. You can have that property. It is 100% capital gains tax free. Is it on the cards? Let's have a little bit of a chat about it. Super taxes. Now, ladies and gentlemen, super tax is we already have it. It's a tax-free vehicle in the future up to certain amounts. And Australians have become more and more afraid, and sometimes even don't invest in super because they're scared that the government are going to change the laws. Well, that's definitely on the cards right now. And we're going to talk about the potential of what's going to happen in super, and then the downstream ramifications of that, because that could be really important, because that could operate not just within the world of super, but downstream as well. And the good old negative gearing, which keeps on getting thrown around all of the time, it wasn't, they never said that they wouldn't. Is it on the cards for the moment? I don't believe that they'll even touch it this year, but at the moment, it's one that they haven't said absolutely is off the cards. So let's have a look at the first level. So principal place of residence. There's a few debates that I was watching where Chambers blatantly ignored trying to answer whether or not they would touch capital gains tax on the principal place of residence. So currently, if you didn't know, most of you probably do, your principal place of residence, you're allowed one. Your principal place of residence is 100% capital gains tax free. And we use that in strategies with our clients called the PPR upgrade strategy. We teach clients how to use their principal place of residence, not to be a liability, because ultimately, if you purchase your principal place of residence and take 30 years to pay that thing off, well, typically you've paid twice as much for that property. So if you bought $1 million property, you pay that sucker off over 30 years, then effectively that property has cost you $2 million or more based on the interest payments. So we've got a system that we take people through that show them, well, how do you actually condense that? Like what? And then because it's capital gains tax free, how do you upgrade and do that in a systematic way? That means that you're paying less tax, but you get to live in a sort of a higher end house each time, and then use that as an asset to retire. I call it the secondary superannuation, right? And what do I mean by that? Well, later on, if your house, which for many people is the single largest asset that they'll have, even over the top of superannuation. And if you end up with a $3, $4, $5 million property, I mean, property has gone pretty berserk in Australia. And it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. That will become quite a significant asset. Now, for most people, when we get to 80, 90, 100, well, we typically don't want to be climbing stairs on a 2-story house. We don't need the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th bathroom and bedroom. We'd probably forget where to go to bed at night, I reckon, by the time I'm that age. But ultimately, you get to a position where it starts to become a good idea to downsize that. And because it's capital gains tax free, then it's kind of like your second super, right? You get to downsize that, take a chunk out. Based on current laws, you can put up to 300,000 each into superannuation. So not only is it a secondary super in the way of a tax-free asset, but there's also laws that allow you to get up to 300,000 per person. Rules apply. So tax on this asset is something that, as Australians, we really need to keep our eye on and scream very loudly if it starts to hit the press, starts to hit the parliament, because ultimately that's been one of our great tax havens for many, many years. It's part of many people's retirement strategy. And ultimately, we'd love to safeguard that for the future. Let's see what they have installed for us this year. So that's one to keep an eye on. And look, if things start to pop up, certainly let's have conversations with your local member and let them know that you're not very happy about that being introduced. See whether we can stop it before it starts. So this is one that was talked about. It was not denied. And so let's see whether that comes up. Super tax. Now, this is one that is definitely sitting in the wings, right? It was actually in not last budget, but the budget before. And nothing was said about it in the most recent budget. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the tax on superannuation above $3 million, right? Now, it's really important that everyone sort of just slows down a little bit and just really understands what this means, right? So a couple of different things. If you change things left, right, and center, people lose confidence in it because people want stability. Right? People want stability in their lives. You want stability and you want comfort that if you're going to put $1 in today and you're not going to be able to get that $1 back for 40 odd years, you want some stability that's going to be a reasonably stable system and the rules are not going to change all the time. Right? So ultimately, that really is what superannuation should have. Right? The ability to be a very, very safe place for Australians to invest their funds, because ultimately that's the replacement of a pension. Right? That's you funding your own retirement and your employer contributing to that on your behalf. So this idea of a $3 million cap is just introducing potentially a new law, making things more complicated, needing your advisor, your need for advice, even though many advisors aren't in the industry anymore because they've basically executed half of them. And you're going to need advice. There's not enough advisors around in order to give advice to all Australians. And it will complicate the system infinitely if they end up doing this. And so they've said, or it's been proposed, that they will start to tax assets above $3 million in super. Now, there's a couple of different things on this. You might say, well, I'll never have $3 million in super. Well, your kids will, and it's not indexed. Right? So what do I mean by that? If you're 20 years of age right now and you're looking towards 65, right? So that's 45 years down the track. $1 million or $3 million is not going to punch at the same purchasing power as it does right now. I can tell you that. It's going to be significantly less purchasing power in 45 years. Just have a look. For any of you who have heard the story, if you're my age, you'll probably remember your parents saying, I remember buying my first house for $17,000. Does anybody have any of those stories? Whack it in the comments if you've got those stories. Like, how much did your parents purchase their first house for? I'll be super interested to know some of the numbers in here because they'll be super low, right? I think it was my dad. he said, I think it was 17,000, something like that. That was inner city, right? Inner city Melbourne back in the day. It's probably worth about $2 or $3 million now. That's the same bit of real estate would be worth that. Bought it for $17,000, now worth about $3 million, which is a good example, right? So I'm not saying that today 17,000 is going to be worth 3 million, but that's a really good example of inflation. So the point I'm making is your kids, or if you're 20 or you're 30 and they put a $3 million cap on super and it's not indexed, meaning it stays flat every year, it's just $3 million, then that's not going to buy you jack by the time that you get to 65. So this is an important thing for the youth, but it's also really important for us right now to understand a few other downstream consequences of this. So what have we got here? We've got Chris, 38 for 40,000, sold for $2.4 million a year ago, right? Like this is common in Australia. Very, very common. It's not a bad investment, is it? And ultimately, right, you could sell that tax-free and put a large chunk of that into super, realize the cash, and that helps you continue to live. Also helps the property market, recycles property back into the market, allows other people to buy. So all other things being equal, it's a really, really good thing. And not having capital gains tax on principal place of residences also allows people to sell them, because ultimately they're not going to realize the tax. Lots of people don't sell investments because they don't want to realize the tax. So that could actually perpetuate or increase the lack of supply in property. Anyway, the $3 million super tax. Now, if they bought the $3 million super tax in, there is this one thing that is very, very technical, right? And it's they need to change the Tax Act and tax legislation in order to make it possible. And it's the idea that we can tax unrealized capital gains. So what does that mean? So let's just say you've got an investment property. Let's say you've got an investment property in super, right? And it goes above the $3 million mark. Let's say that you just happen to have it. It was worth $2.5 million. Property market went up. You've got one property in there, a little bit of cash, right? And that property goes through and all of a sudden is worth 3.2 million. Let's say 3.2 million, right? So that $200,000 is now in taxable territory. Now you haven't realized the gain because you haven't sold the property. But the idea is that in this system, they will tax that gain even though you haven't sold the property. So you might end up with a $20,000 tax bill, right, from that gain in that property, even though you haven't even sold it. So what's the downstream consequence of that? Well, you may be forced to sell that property inside super, even though it may be yielding very, very well. If it's not producing the income to pay the tax, then you may be forced to sell that property. You might say, well, you know what, $3 million in super, you're doing pretty well anyway. Every single year that goes by, $3 million buys less and less and less. If you're 10, 15 years away from retirement, you should be looking at this going, this is something that we need to be concerned about. And not only that, we need to be going, well, if it comes in and it stays, how do we manage it? How do we better organize our affairs? I know Jason and I have been talking about this now for 2 or 3 years going, well, if it comes in, what strategies can we use and deploy in order to minimize the impact on it? There are ways that we can, right? This is just how it works. They bring in laws, we apply them, and we figure out ways in order to be able to apply them in the best way possible in order to help our clients navigate the complexity of the system. But here's my plea, please, just leave it alone, right? Just leave it alone. You've toyed with it too much. People are starting to get scared of super where they should be loving it and should feel confident in it. So let's just hope that they don't touch it. Because if they do start to change the tax legislation and tax unrealized gains in super, what do you reckon's next? Maybe they start to tax unrealized gains in other areas. Maybe it's your principal place of residence. Maybe it's other areas. It's a scary loophole that if they open it up, we don't understand the downstream consequences. And if they change that legislation, then they get more power to go and change other things further down the track. Yes. So watch out. You know, they've spent like drunken sailors. They need to pay the piper, just to mix two metaphors. Spent like drunken sailors. They need to pay the piper. And your pockets are the ones that they're going to try and reach into in order to cover for the shitty decisions that they've been making. Soapbox over. Negative gearing gets thrown around almost every single election. I don't reckon they'll touch it. They can't touch it. If they want the property market to keep moving forward, then ultimately it's investors that lead the market. There's been so much commentary around this. There's been counsel that has been very public. So hopefully this one, that the Libs were certainly talking about coming to election. I'm hoping that this one's pretty safe, right? I'm hoping it's pretty safe. If they start to tax that, there's already a few case studies around the world that show that when implementing things like this, it doesn't work and the economy shits the bed. So team, look out for them. Don't be silent. The soapbox moment here is, if you're in Australia, there's this idea that being patriotic is an American thing, and I applaud the Americans for being patriotic. I think that's a good thing. I think as Australians, we should be patriotic. Like, imagine Australians if we were patriotic and we really cared about who was in power in this country. And now let's not necessarily look to America for the whole Trump side of the equation, love him or hate him. But ultimately, there's this idea of political ambivalence, right? Where it's just like, oh, we'll just go with the flow. And what happens with the flow is you go where the strongest flow goes in a river. If there's a fork, if you go with the flow, you'll go where the strongest current is, and that's going to take you over the waterfalls. So maybe we start to swim against the flow a little bit. And imagine if we started swimming against the flow, more people started talking about politics and started swimming against the flow, then maybe we might be able to navigate a safer journey through the river of our lives. So that's my wish. Hopefully everyone starts to take a little bit more notice of what's going on. It's going to be in our face for 3 years, and they've got the power to change things. And again, it's not a Liberal or Labor thing. It's just we've got a government that now has control. I actually think that a government with control is a good thing, because it means that they can deploy their policies. Let's just hope the policies are good ones. I don't have a lot of faith on that side of the equation. So team, watch out for the PPR. Hopefully they'll leave it alone. It's certainly there. It's an easy money grab if they want to do it, because as older people have to recycle their houses, it's an old tax. It's a youth tax, and it's a senior tax. So we need to be very, very careful. Super, again, remember, indexing. If they don't index that $3 million, it's going to be a youth tax, right? And if they do bring it in, then it's going to open the loophole for potentially other tax on other unrealized gains. Look at cryptocurrency, all of these other areas. Don't want it to happen, but you've got to keep your eyes out, ladies and gents, because ultimately the game of wealth is one where you need good advisors keeping you up to date with what's really going on, not what the press does, which is, just constantly try and scare you about all of these things that are happening. No, it's about real data, understanding what the downstream ramifications are, second, third, fourth, fifth order consequences. Did you build any houses? Yes, we built 340 of them. But did you build them? Well, they had to be built in order to be able to be there, didn't they? No, the question was, did you acquire the house or did you build them? They didn't build the houses. They bought the houses. Then the second question was, how many people are living in them? Well, apparently none, right? So politics and media sometimes take you down the wrong path and give you information which is just clever play on words or just flat out bullshit. Good advisors will give you the real details, the real facts, help you guide yourself on a safer journey. That's the reality. That's why Wealth Coffee Chats exist. And that's also why we get together once a year and we talk about these things and more at something called the Property Summit. So for those of you who haven't already registered, for those of you who have registered, look forward to seeing you there. We've got some incredible speakers that are going to be coming along to help you stay up to date, not just in the world of wealth. We've actually got Tony Robbins, right-hand man, well, not necessarily right-hand man, but he is the #1 speaker. If you go to Date with Destiny, you're going to hear from this bloke most of the time. At the event, you'll hear from Tony a little bit, but he literally is the #1 speaker for Tony Robbins. So we've got a very, very special guest in him. We've also got a few other secret guests that'll be coming along. If you want to know who they are, click on the link that the guys will be whacking into our socials, and I'll play you a little bit of a promo video, and then we'll come in, wrap up, and you can get on with your days. So let's have a little bit of a look-see at an incredible event coming up, which you can register for, which I'll hopefully see you there.
All right, this is going to be fun. Who has played the property game before? Who has been in the game? Who's never played the property game before? Oh, you're in for a treat. Who likes Monopoly? Did anyone like Monopoly when they were a kid?
Well, this is Monopoly in real life in this room. Every hour or so, you guys are going to be up and you're going to be running around the room like maniacs trying to play the property game and win the property game.
Today, I wanted to share the lessons, the mistakes, and the wins.
I want everybody to put up their hands who knows their interest rates on all their loans right now.
If you haven't seen me around before, like 13 years in the industry, in property management specifically.
Who likes paying tax? If you need help finding somewhere to donate, I'm sure I can find somewhere else where it can go.
No, we've got an expression in that, let's go and make new mistakes in the world. Who wants to make new mistakes?
These are just strategic moves that can make such a big difference.
So obviously buy well, never sell. Definitely the majority of what everyone's looking to do is collect some A-grade assets, B-grade assets, whatever it might be.
I loved the idea of being a property investor and developing that identity.
Collectively, they have way more years experience in everything that you think you're trying to solve. Because they do it every single day.
Ladies and gentlemen, Be There, Be Square. It's on the Gold Coast. It's coming up in June. Click on the links in order to get your ticket, reserve your seat right now. Come along and listen to a billionaire that we've got coming along who's going to talk to you about the empire that he's built up, share some secrets about the journey on the way there. As I said, Tony Robbins, #1 speaker, who's been supporting him for over a decade now. Scotty Harris is going to be there. Scott Forrester will be there. There's a huge lineup, including all of the Wealth Coffee Chat participants will be there in order to be able to serve you. Have some fun playing the property game. Hopefully provide you with some really interesting information and opportunities that you can take home, utilize in your day-to-day life, a safer journey on your way to wealth. As Jason says, take it easy, ladies and gentlemen, because this thing's a marathon, not a sprint. Buy well, never sell. Buy well, strategically sell. At the right time in order to minimize your tax and maximize your journey to a live, love legacy. That's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. See you at the Property Summit. Have a great Thursday. See you next time.
Thanks for watching another episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday.